The shocking truth behind God's destruction of the Canaanites at midnight never told before. The night of judgment had come, and it was darker than any before. The air was thick with an ominous sense of dread, as whispers from the ancient scrolls floated in the moonlight like restless spirits. It was said that at the stroke of midnight, a reckoning would unfold, a practically divine response that echoes through the ages. Eyes wide in fear, the Canaanite people felt the weight of an unseen force. Something was coming for them, something that felt woven into the fabric of the very night itself. That as the clock inched closer to 12, strange occurrences began to unravel. Animals howled in panic, their cries echoing off the walls like a chorus of warning. The rivers flowed dark, reflecting a twisted reality that made skin crawl. Clouds rolled in, casting shadows that swallowed the ground whole. People whispered about the signs, the searing flash of lightning that lit the sky, the sudden gust of wind that swept through with a knowing chill. Was it the breath of God or the harbinger of doom? It made the hairs on their necks stand tall. Every street felt like a trap, each house a hollow shell of what once was. Residents had locked their doors, praying, "Please, let it pass us by." But deep down, they knew. Midnight wasn't just passing, it was inevitable. And so was what lay ahead. Murmurs filled the marketplace, packed with fear-based speculation. "Did you hear?" A woman gasped, clutching her child. "They say a great folly lurks in the night, one that no one has escaped." Her voice trembled, reflecting the escalating panic that clutched at every heart. "Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the clock struck 12, a high-pitched chime that pierced the anxiety-hazed air. In that moment, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and the night fractured. Silence snapped to a frenzy as the sky erupted with fire and chaos. It was a vision that felt like something out of folklore, a wrath unleashed, and the Canaanites could only stare wide-eyed as their fate unveiled. But was this divine will or something darker? Questions stirred like an insatiable storm. What awaited them next? Who could survive under such dread? And just when the hope should dawn, a flash of light caught their attention. A figure, cloaked in shadows, moved through the labyrinth of fear, beckoning them towards a truth no one was prepared to meet. The air crackled with electricity, a palpable tension rippling through the streets of the Canaanite city. Light danced in chaotic patterns all around, casting sickly shadows that stretched impossibly long. The cloaked figure glided forward, revealing glimpses of a face shrouded in darkness. Were they friend or foe? Few dared to breathe as a rippling silence enveloped them. "What are you?" a man finally managed to choke out, his voice quaking with fear. The figure's head turned slowly, and eyes flashed with an unsettling clarity in the dim light. "I am not here to harm." The voice resonated, low and haunting, wrapping around the crowd like an eerie fog. "I bring a warning, a chance to understand." The murmurs ignited again, skepticism piercing through their dread. "Understand what? Our doom?" a woman shouted, clutching her child tighter. In her eyes, every sliver of hope was extinguished. "What can you possibly say that could save us now?" "Listen," the figure commanded, raising a hand, silencing the crowd. "The chaos you see is not merely destruction. It is purging. The sins of your people have invited calamity, but within these flames, there lies a choice: redemption or ruin. It is up to you." Fear morphed into desperation. What choice could they possibly have in the face of such ferocity? It felt as if the very ground was asking for blood, demanding an answer they weren't sure they could give. Faces turned pale, and eyes widened as the figure continued. "For generations, the cries of your ancestors have echoed against the heavens. Their wails cannot be silenced. Unravel the secrets entwined within your own hearts, and perhaps there is still a chance. A chilling scream pierced the air, snapping everyone back to the reality unraveling around them. Like a tidal wave, terror surged through the throng as flames shot upward, sparking and catching onto rooftops. They were losing precious seconds. Confusion spread like wildfire. "We have to leave. We have to run," someone shouted, breaking the cautious stillness. The crowd surged forward, abandoning reason. But the cloaked figure remained where they stood, eyes unwavering, unfazed by the unquenchable fear swirling in every heart. "Do not run," the figure urged, voice rising above the chaos. "Face it. You must confront the history you carry. Only then can you hope for passage away from this night." The throngs hesitated, a maelstrom of panic swirling around them, torn between a survival instinct and the grounding pull of truth. In an instant, the streets became a mix of chaos and stillness, warring emotions swirling like a tempest. But one pair of eyes among the crowd, dark and determined, refused to look away from the figure. A woman stepped forward, heart thundering in her chest. "Tell us what we must do," she cried out, urgency lacing her words. Her voice echoed through the crowd, awakening something primal lurking beneath their fear. This was no ordinary night. This was a liminal space where choices could shatter destinies. The figure took a moment, taking in the sea of faces before them, each filled with a unique story, a shard of history entwined with the present. "Gather your families. Recall the wrongs committed, the injustices. Speak them, and you will align yourselves with the might of the heavens." Before anyone could respond, the scent of smoke thickened the air, and another roar of flames sent a shockwave of panic surging through the gathered crowd. They were burning down their own history before their eyes. Yet, instead of retreating, the woman turned back, rallying her neighbors. "We can't let this night claim us. We need to face it together." Their resolve strengthened the pulse of the gathering, and like a single heartbeat, they began to chant their covered truths, fears spilling out into the night, mixing with the chaos. But would it be enough? Was this midnight moment an awakening, or merely pushing the inevitable further down the road? And as the group united, the ground trembled again, as if the world awaited an answer to questions whispered for centuries, the odd choice between courage and despair. The flames flickered higher, illuminating their resolve, but an unknown force loomed just out of reach, poised to strike again. Would their voices drown in the night, or would truth ignite them into a revolution? As they chanted, the cloaked figure vanished into the shadows, leaving a lingering question in the air. What destinies would be rewritten as dawn approached? The chanting intensified, a tempest of voices rising to meet the cracking sky. Each word bled anguish, a collective weight tugging at the hearts of the townsfolk. They stood, a fragile unity forming among fear, clinging to flickering hope. But the reality of their burning history cast long shadows, warping the truth as panic dripped like sweat off their brows. That as the flames climbed higher, they twisted into fierce shapes, haunting silhouettes of the sins they feared. The smoke twisted, coiling around them like a serpent, a sign, a warning. No longer could they ignore the spectral images it conjured in their minds. Faces long buried surfaced, accompanied by the echoes of their failures. The woman who had rallied them now stood firm at the forefront, eyes ablaze with purpose yet also filled with a deep terror. "Speak, what have we lost?" she urged, her voice raw, breaking through the chaos like a knife. Every eye turned toward her, hope shimmering at the edges like burning coals. Families huddled closer, horror in their hearts, but a flame of courage ignited. A father shakily stepped forward, breath caught in his throat. "I took from my neighbor's fields. I acted as a lord, but I was just a thief." A ripple of recognition spread through the crowd. People began to take their turns, victims and perpetrators all connected by seams of regret. Each voice rose louder than the last, unveiling the festering wounds that had long been ignored. "The merchant, he overcharged the children," a woman cried out, her fists shaking. "Those of us who turned our backs on the lepers, I let them suffer while I dined." A man choked out, his hands trembling. The other villagers began to murmur, and then the next voice took flight, bold and clear. I cursed the widow. I called her a witch. With each confession, the flames shimmered and pulsed in response, as if the very fabric of their memories was reaching out to engage with them, melding regret with renewal. But as the truth washed over them, a sudden roar erupted from the depths of the night, drowning out their words. The earth quivered violently, and a shockwave rolled through the air, sending several people tumbling to the ground. What is happening? Someone screamed, eyes wide with terror. From the swirling fire and shadow, shapes began to manifest, ghostly figures of their past, wailing and twisted. Skeletal forms rushed forward, grasping for escape. They were the memories, the unresolved burdens of the villagers, the very things they wished to forget. Face it, face it, the cloaked figure's voice echoed hauntingly, reverberating against the growing chaos. But where had it gone? Was it really gone, or merely hidden, observing? The flame whispers turned into anguished cries, swirling around them as if urging the living to atone. Panic reignited, fingers pointing in all directions, faces morphing from courage to sheer panic. One moment they were united, and the next, they were unraveling once more. Run! Someone howled, and just like a shattered mirror, the group fractured, scattering like dry leaves in the wind. They fled in multiple directions, the darkness hungry to consume their light and the sprawl of panic. The woman who had ignited their rallying cry found herself alone, a single torch flickering against the looming shadows. What was buried was now unleashed, entwined with reality. She had to make a choice: confront the chaos alone or succumb to the despair creeping closer with each heartbeat. Suddenly, one of the figures reached for her, too close, its hollow eyes filled with fury and sadness. It muttered in an ancient tongue, and as it drew nearer, she could almost hear her name echoing through the smoke. Was this the moment she had feared? Was this the fate that awaited them all? As shadows closed in, one thought blazed through her mind: could the truth she had unearthed by chance be the very key to their salvation or doom? The flames crackled, demanding an answer, and she took a trembling step forward toward the embracing darkness. What lay ahead could lead to their reckoning or their ultimate end. As the figures writhed, the question loomed larger than the night itself. Could she reclaim her destiny before it slipped through her fingers? The answer lingered just out of reach, hidden in the shadows. What had been unleashed, could it ever be put to rest? Would morning break, or would night swallow them whole? She took a deep breath, heart pounding like thunder in her chest. The cloaked figure loomed closer, its presence enveloping her in an icy grip. A chill spread through the air, wrapping around her throat, stifling her voice. But inside, a fire blazed, a flicker of grit, pushing her forward. "Stop!" she shouted, surprising herself with the strength of her own tone. The flames froze, swirling at her command, the shadows retreating slightly. The figure stopped, its hollow eyes studying her closely. "Who are you to call a halt?" it rasped, voice like stones grinding together. "You stand on the brink of the abyss, yet you wish to linger?" She hesitated, piecing together every ounce of courage she could muster. "I wish to confront what we've hidden. You come from our past. You can't take us without our consent." A pause, heavy and thick, hung in the air. The flickering flames crackled softly, as if waiting to hear the next bold move. A ghostly wail echoed behind her, drawing her attention to the villagers still caught in panic, struggling against their own demons. Did they even want to face this weight? Memories dragged them lower, the past demanding reckoning. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they refuse, succumbing to dread? "Look," she implored, turning toward the trembling mass of her neighbors. "This is our chance. If we don't confront these shadows now, they will consume us all. We have shackled ourselves to our regrets for too long." Her voice acted as a spark. A woman who had cowered in fear stepped forward, meeting the specter's piercing stares. "I took from others too, stealing joy when I spread rumors." Another voice joined in. "I ignored the cries of my brother when he needed me." Murmurs built like an echoing chorus, each confession breaking through the weight of despair. The figures in the flames thrashed violently, twisting like vines. Their anguished cries crescendoed, clashing against the villagers' growing resolve. This was more than just a reckoning. It felt like a possibility, a chance for redemption. A chance to be seen. One by one, more villagers found their voices, confessing to betrayal, indifference, and neglect. Their admissions flooded the space, nourishing the flickering light that now pooled around her feet. "No longer will we run," she shouted as an uncontrollable energy surged through her. "No longer will we hide." The flames responded with a mesmerizing dance, swirling in an unpredictable rhythm, twisting the cuffs of the air into a vibrant spectacle, half hopeful, half tormenting. The figures shivered, relenting slightly, retreating just beyond the boundary of light. But they were still there, hungry in the shadows, waiting for the smallest sign of weakness. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, fierce and unyielding. "Face it," the cloaked entity howled, and the shape began to merge into a more familiar form, one of the residents lost to time, twisting in malice. "No," she gasped. It was Mary, the baker's daughter, consumed by her own tragic fate. Her once bright face now marred, despair tangled in sorrowful rage. "Why do you cling to the past?" "Because it is our chain," the woman cried back, stepping toward Mary. "A chain we can break. Together." The crowd stepped closer, a wave of solidarity propelling them forward. The shadows writhed in horror as the light spread, gathering strength with every heartfelt confession. "Together," a voice rumbled, booming through the chaos. It was the father, the one who had started this with his own admission. His bravado sparked others, and they shouted in unison, feeding the flames with truth. But Marius' eyes narrowed, simmering with rage. "You think this will save you?" she hissed, stretching her skeletal fingers, now more muscular than they had been before. "You tread a fine line between salvation and destruction." And electricity charged the air, crackling with uncertainty. The price of truth came at a cost, but the woman could feel it, the rising fervor of a collective force. They would either be saved or shattered, and then, before she could digest the enormity of it all, the cloaked figure loomed above her, grinning beneath its shroud. "Your truth has power, but it is not for free. Are you willing to pay the price?" Every nerve screamed inside her, urging caution. Was she prepared to confront the cost of salvation, knowing the stakes were unbearably high? With fury mingling with fear, she inhaled deeply, ready to respond. "Show me," she shouted defiantly into the swirling vortex of chaos, heart racing. What came next would determine if they could bring light to darkness or if they would be swallowed whole. The flames raged, and answers danced just out of reach. Would breakthrough follow, or would they be consumed by their own reckoning? The answer awaited, pregnant with uncertainty and danger. The cloaked figure paused, and even the raging flames seemed to still for a heartbeat. The tension was electric, thick, wrapping around them like heavy fog. "Very well," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. "The price is laid bare before you. To break free from the chains of your past, you must confront your own failures without mercy." A shroud of apprehension washed over the crowd. Fear flickered across faces, each one grappling with the weight of their own truths. Would they dare to face not just their shadows but the reality of their actions? The woman stood firm, her heart racing. "We choose to face it. Show us our redemption." With a rasping laugh, the figure waved its hand, and the flames twisted violently, whipping around them like serpents eager to strike. Suddenly, visions burst forth from the fire, vivid memories swirling before them like chaotic phantoms. She gasped as an image flashed herself as a child, playing carelessly while her parents argued behind closed doors. The pain of those words cut deep, and she felt her chest tighten, raw emotions washing over her. "I ignored them," she murmured, the realization dark and heavy. Beside her, the baker stepped forward, his face contorting in agony as a memory gripped him. "I cursed my neighbor instead of helping him," he cried, the shadows and the flames morphing into a spectral representation of his selfishness, clinging onto him like an anchor. The crowd weaved together, each revealing their truths with trembling voices, lifting the collective burden. But with each admission, the shadows grew, swirling around them more fiercely. The cloaked figure basked in the chaos, its grin widening, fed by their chaos. Do you still believe facing your past will set you free? Cackled. The thrill in its voice echoed off the walls of despair. What if the monsters remain? What if you are their captors? The villagers faltered, the warmth of resolve skirting the edges of doubt. The woman felt the air grow thick again, and fear wrapped around her heart. But we can't stay prisoners of our past, she shouted, desperation fueling her. Every truth spoken is a light that will diminish the shadows. With that, something deep within her stirred. An ember reignited fierce and unrelenting. We can rewrite our destinies. She turned to the crowd, locking eyes with each trembling figure. This is our chance to wrest control. We have to be brave. A flicker of hope sparked in the air, glimmering brightly against the dark forces. One by one, voices rose again, a symphony of admission mingled with determination. They shouted confessions and promises of change, daring the shadows to arise, daring the cloaked figure to challenge them. The flames twisted and raged, glowing brighter as their voices surged together, drawing strength from one another. But as the light grew stronger, so too did the malevolence of the figure. Its form shifted, becoming larger, angrier. A vengeful titan twisted from their memories. You cannot stand against what you have sown. It roared. In that moment, the village's pulse matched her own, a synchrony of courage ignited by the flames. No, she cried, pushing forward through the heat. We will not be defined by our failures. We embrace our ghosts, and we will not let them bind us. But as her words hung in the air, the cloaked figure lunged, a dark wave crashing down, and time stretched terrifyingly. The air vibrated, growing heavier, and she understood their moment of truth teetered on a knife's edge. Would they fight the shadows together, or would they collapse under their weight? The cries of the villagers resounded like thunder, rising up just as fiercely as the flames, but the figure was coming for them all. The ground shook, a storm brewing around them as she braced herself against the impending tide. What comes next? She thought with a racing heart. A blinding light erupted, and then darkness. What had they unleashed? Would they emerge triumphant, or would the shadows consume them all? The darkness pressed in, enveloping them like a thick cloak. Heartbeats rang like war drums in her ears, a chorus of anxiety and anticipation. The world felt suspended in time, a fragile thread teetering on the brink of unraveling. But then slowly a dim glow flickered to life around her. The woman squinted against the light, her surroundings gradually redefining themselves. The flames were gone, but the heat clung to her skin. They stood on a barren landscape, shrouded in mist, a desolate wasteland that mirrored the emptiness in their hearts. Where are we? Someone whispered, trepidation lacing their tone. Eyes darted around, searching for the safety of familiarity, but all they found was an expanse of gray, stretching endlessly. It was a void, a raw canvas showcasing their failures both past and lingering. The cloaked figure materialized from the shadows, its presence looming over them like a storm cloud. Welcome to the realm of lost opportunities, it growled, voice a cold breeze slithering down their spines. Here you will witness what happens to those who flee from their truths. The woman's breath caught in her throat as the shadows around them took form. Scenes erupted before them, grotesque reenactments of their own choices, the moments they turned a blind eye, the times they backed away when they should have stepped forward. Oh God, not this, she breathed, recognizing her own failings. She watched herself walk away from a friend in need, dismissing their cries for help. With each heavier scene that unfolded, her heart ached, pounding painfully in her chest. They're not just shadows, the baker rasped, horror etched on his face as he stumbled back. They're real. They're us, the crowd gasped collectively, a visceral reminder that every mistake, every flaw, was inescapably tied to them. The shadows crackled with energy, mocking their shame. The woman fought against the tide of despair, her mind racing. We can't let these haunt us. They don't define who we are, she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony, determination igniting once more. Ah, But you are trapped in this web of connections. You are the very threads woven into this tapestry of regret. The figure sneered, eyes glinting with malevolence. You gave me power, and now it's too late to escape. Just as sharp as her fear was, a flicker of anger surged within her. This is our moment. We're not surrendering. The flames of their earlier courage rekindled, igniting a fire in the hearts of others. A few brave souls began to step forward against their demons. Face it, own it, change it, they cried together, their voices ringing like bells, echoing throughout the empty expanse. Light pushed back against the shadows, but the figure's laughter echoed harshly, deep and raw, resonating with both fury and delight. You truly believe you can rewrite your fates? This is merely a memory, a reflection of the darkness within. What else do you hide? As panic danced in her eyes, the whispers of her fellow villagers echoed in her head. Memories, nightmares, and questions collided. What more had they buried? How many monsters lay waiting in the dark corners of their minds, ready to surface? The ground shook once more, sending vibrations through their bodies. A pulse of black and white began to swirl around them, threatening to consume everything yet again. She grasped the hands of her neighbors, grounding them, anchoring hope as shadowy figures closed in. Stay with me. We can do this. But just as the light began to push against the tide, a chilling truth threaded through her heart. If they couldn't face everything, if they couldn't be completely honest about their own darker shades, they might never overcome the very forces they sought to defeat. The realization struck like a blow. Could they confront every last secret together? Or were they bound to the shadows forever? As the darkness rushed in, drowning their voices, she made a solemn vow. I will not be a prisoner. Not again. But was that enough? Would self-examination shatter their fragile unity, or would it stitch them closer? Together, the ground trembled, reverberating a deep, unsettling echo that seemed to mock their resolve. The shadows loomed closer, hungry specters that fed off their fears. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, closing in like a vice grip around their throats. Remember why we came together, she shouted, voice rising over the dissonance. Clenching her fists, she felt the warmth of her neighbors beside her. We are not alone in this. Their shared breaths formed hasty puffs in the mist, now swirling like ghosts seeking solace. The memories morphed, twisting into familiar faces, loved ones they had disappointed, dreams they had failed to chase. But she could see glimmers of defiance igniting in her companion's eyes. Little by little, courage blossomed in this void. We have to face it all, the baker yelled, emboldened, and suddenly, he wasn't just a bystander. He stepped forward, shoulders squared against the onslaught of regret, bringing others with him. Together we can face our mistakes. The cloaked figure howled in laughter, its voice like gravel scraping against metal. Fools! You think your unity will save you here? You're surrendering to more memories, more fears. This isn't bravery. It's desperation. The shadows writhed in agreement, looming like a predator circling its prey. But as the figures writhed, discord melted into an emerging harmony. The woman felt their determination pushing back. The shadows hesitated, straining against their bond. She raised her chin, feeling each heartbeat transform from fear into a steady drum of resolve. Let us channel our pain, she urged, urgency sharpening her voice. Let it forge us instead of breaking us. A ripple coursed through the group as they mirrored her strength. I wish I had helped, someone shouted, unleashing a torrent of regret. I could have loved harder, another echoed, power rising as they released their truths, their words shattering the suffocating weight that pressed down on them. With each admission, the crushing darkness shuddered, recoiling as if struck by a ray of light. The mist around them began to thin, revealing faint outlines, fingers of hope reaching out. But the cloaked figure pinched its lips together, eyes narrowing with rage as they transformed from a twisted smirk to a scowl of desperation. You think mere words can save you? They can't wipe away your history. You're still defined by those choices. Seethed, voice laced with venom. No, snarled the baker, shaking. We're defined by who we choose to be moving forward. That's the truth. The group rallied behind the baker, their voices merging into a fervent chorus. The power of their unity resonated outwards, morphing into a blinding light that burst forth, illuminating the barren landscape. The shadows recoiled, screeching like banshees retreating from daylight. Yet, just as the shadows began to break apart, the darkness screamed louder, thrashing violently, threatening to pull them back into the abyss of cowardice and regret. "What's happening?" she cried out. "We can't back down now." In that terrifying moment, a faint whisper unfurled from the depths, a guttural hissing that twisted through their minds. "You think you're free, but you'll always carry the weight of your choices. You can't escape the truth." The reaction sent churning gusts of fear weaving through her. Doubt flickered, dancing at the edges of her resolve. "Push harder," the baker urged, straining against the darkness. But the shadows murmured sweetly, trickster voices luring them back, soft yet sinister. What more would surface if they ventured deeper? Could they withstand the final test, rooted in the darkest corners of their souls? As the light battled the oncoming shadows, she knew one thing. They were on the brink of something monumental. Would they embrace it, or would they unravel before the truth? In that electrifying moment, she felt the shift, a tremor of fate hanging delicately in the air. Would their resilience alone conquer the darkness? Or would the chilling echoes of their past bind them for eternity? The air crackled with desperation. It felt electric, igniting their senses. Shadows writhed like snakes, hissing venomous lies that sunk into their minds. "You'll never be free," the cloaked figure sneered, gesturing wildly. "Your failures are trapped within you, twisting every choice you make. You can't outrun what you are." Panic surged. She could see it in her friend's eyes, the rising tide of fear threatening to drown their newly found courage. Whispers rattled through the group, filling the cacophony with doubt. "What if he's right?" someone croaked, trembling. "What if we're just hopeless?" "Stop," she shouted, grounding herself. She felt the warmth of her neighbors, steadying her resolve. "We must remember that everything we've endured is part of us." "Yes, but it doesn't have to define us." "Breathe." They needed clarity amidst the turmoil. One by one, she locked eyes with her comrades. The baker, steadfast and determined, stood tall beside her. "Find strength in your scars," he bellowed. "Embrace them. We are alive, and that means we have a choice." As if summoned, the memories swirled, each one a ghost that painted their lives, love lost, dreams shattered, paths untaken. The shadows drew nearer, hungry for their despair. Yet now they faced it with something more. She stepped forward, heart pounding. "We are the architects of our own paths. Each mistake is merely a stepping stone to who we want to become." A collective gasp arose, rippling through the fog. The shadows paused, their movements faltering, uncertain. She held her breath, hoping that this would be the turning point. Then, whispers bloomed like delicate flowers in the dark, a surge of confessions rising from the depths. "I regret turning my back on the truth." A voice trembled, shaking but resolute. "I wish I had been braver." Another joined in, and suddenly it felt as if they were releasing chains that had bound them for far too long. "See?" The cloaked figure seethed, fury radiating from every inch of its being. "You think this matters? Nothing changes what you've done. You remain tainted." "No," they shouted back as one, rejecting the darkness with their unified voices. The ground trembled under their feet, but it felt different now, as if the tremors arose from a foundation built on solidarity rather than fear. In a spectacular surge, light exploded from their hearts, unwavering. It pierced the thick blanket of shadows like a fiery arrow, illuminating the dark landscape like dawn breaking over a long night. The shadows convulsed, shrieking in protest, but they held firm. Yet, just as hope beamed brightly, everything shifted. The mist began clawing back, dragging at their feet with ferocious intent. The whispers strained, a chorus of despair that threatened to pull them under. "Your truths mean nothing. You're still lost in the depths of your regrets." The figure's voice sliced through the air, sharper than any knife, resonance vibrating with malice. "Hold on," she yelled, adrenaline surging. We've come too far to let it take us now. Use it. Let our pain and love become our strength. And just like that, clarity surged through her like fire. In that moment, her voice rose above the chaos. Let us rise again. Together. Not just fighting our past but in full embrace of the future. But with their united declaration, something else emerged. A flicker of fear in their hearts. Would the lingering darkness latch onto the seeds of their doubt? She took a step forward, teetering on that precipice. The blinding light pushed back, but something deep inside clung to the shadows, whispering that confidence could still crumble under pressure. What if the truth of their past wasn't just haunting, but deadly? Would they break free, or was the true battle only beginning, hidden just beyond the horizon of their resolve? The shadows howled as the light flickered precariously. It was a thrilling balance, one they couldn't afford to lose. But now uncertainty loomed larger. Something awaited them, lurking among the shadows. Would they summon the strength to face what lay ahead? The shadows writhed, each individual tendril pulsing with malice, clawing at their resolve. Anxiety clenched at her chest, a vice tightening with each chilling whisper that echoed within the dark. It was an assault on their unity, a direct challenge to everything they had just proclaimed. Do you really believe you can win? The cloaked figure hissed, its voice dripping with derision. You're just children playing at being heroes. You think the light can protect you? Pathetic. She could feel her friend's confidence waver. Each glance exchanged among them was like a silent plea against the encroaching darkness. But somewhere deep inside, a flicker of defiance ignited. She couldn't let that slip away. Not now. Together. We're stronger together. She cried out, her voice straining against the encircling shadows. She could see the baker shaking his head, gathering strength like a volcanic eruption waiting to happen. I won't let it win, he yelled, and his determination threw a shockwave through the group. They needed to focus to rally around each other's strength. Raising her arms, she drew energy from the light shimmering within them. Focus on what we've overcome. Each scar, every failure has made us who we are. The moment felt electric, her heart racing in time with the pulsing light. Yes, use it. Another voice echoed, a hesitant but hopeful cry that spread through the group like wildfire. One by one, they started to echo their pasts, their pain shifting from shackles to badges of honor. I lost a friend, but I learned to stand by those who remain. I once ran away, but now I'm here, fighting for my choice. Each truth woven into the air added to the glow that spiraled from their hearts, pushing back against the darkness. But just as the shadows began to retreat, the cloaked figure laughed, a sound that shook the ground beneath them. Foolish mortals, you think your burden is your strength? I'll show you what true despair looks like. The shadows surged back with renewed force, a chaotic army intent on ripping their light asunder. Panic surged, and terror clawed at her throat. She felt as if she were in a hurricane, the eye of the storm swirling around her. All she could hear was the rising din of despair that threatened to engulf them. Stand firm, the baker shouted, breaking through the chaos. We're not lost. Look, he pointed towards the gathering light, illuminating the dark expanse ahead, a beacon against the looming abyss. All our truths, each other, they are our light. She hollered, driving her voice above the tide of desolation. The energy pulsing through her felt like molten steel, filling her veins with determination. Suddenly, a shadow broke from the flock, rushing towards her with an unnerving grace. Its eyes glowed like dying embers, filled with malevolence. It reached out, a hand formed of darkness, poised to snatch her resolve away. A chill ran down her spine. Was she strong enough for this? Instinct kicked in. She charged forward, light shimmering off her palms, channeling everything she had into that moment. She wasn't just fighting for her own life, she was fighting for every soul standing behind her, their hopes strapped in the fragile bonds of trust. Together, together, she roared, and with a sweeping motion, she extended her hands, pouring her essence into the light. The brilliance heightened, an inferno igniting the battlefield against the shadows swirling around them. But in that flash of hope, a flicker of doubt crept back. Could it be enough? The shadows writhed, pulling back only slightly. They weren't backing down. No, they were waiting. And beneath the electrifying surface, she felt something shift in the air, a revelation. What lay ahead was a choice, a reckoning with their deepest fears, and the cloaked figure was only going to reveal its true form in the darkness. A roar echoed through the vast nothingness, more primal than anything she'd ever heard. It was both a promise and a threat, carving a path to an uncertainty that hung over them, poised to strike. What truth awaited just beyond that shimmering light? Would they break free or fall deeper into despair? The battle was only just beginning. As the shadows swirled like storm clouds, the air grew thick with tension. The cloaked figure loomed larger, feeding on their fears, its eyes burning with a ferocity that threatened to snuff out the light they had ignited. It sneered, its voice echoing through the void. You think you can withstand the weight of your truths? Remember, every lie you've ever told binds you, and I am the keeper of your chains. But within her a fire broke free. We are still here, she shouted, her voice ringing with urgency. We stand as one, fueled by our pain and our redemption. The villagers shifted, a wave of solidarity rippling through them. Their hands reached out, fingers intertwining, forming a chain strong enough to hold back the encroaching night. Together, it is only together we grow, the baker shouted, his voice deep and steadfast. Courage surged through them like a tidal wave, swirling with purpose as they declared their connection to each other. Face what you fear, she echoed fiercely, heart thrumming against the terror. Speak your truth. They cannot consume us if we're willing to confront what lies within. With each word of confession that burst forth, the brilliance around them intensified. Voices rose in unison, erupting as if from a volcano. I rejected love and chose pride, cried another, emboldened. I turned my back on community for my own comfort, came another confession. Each truth emerged like phoenixes from ashes, lighting the desolate ground beneath their feet. As their shared burdens lightened, the shadows shivered and recoiled as if struck by the warmth of dawn. The cloaked figure faltered, a flicker of fear daring to creep into its malevolent gaze. You can't win against your past, it bellowed, raw frustration threading through its voice. You are defined by your darkest moments. No, we're not, she declared, a fresh determination igniting within her. Those moments are a part of us, yes, but they do not own us. A chorus of agreement followed, echoed through the air like a siren song of hope. With renewed vigor, the villagers pushed forward, claims of forgiveness and reclamation bursting forth from their lips. I forgive myself for my inaction. I will carry my pain, but it will not silence my heart. Their words melded together, an unstoppable force that created a dawn of resilience. The mist began to peel away, revealing glimmers of color against the grayscale tapestry of regret. The shadows whirled and howled, their forms fractured, losing grip as the light grew blinding. You think this changes anything? The cloaked figure shrieked, desperation bubbling beneath the surface. You'll always carry the burden, only if we let it, she shouted back, the collective heartbeat of the villagers fueling her strength. We are rewriting this. We will honor our truth and rise beyond. In that moment, she felt a harmony permeate through the gathering, an evolutionary shift that transcended fear. It was a spiritual awakening, a reclamation of purpose that pulsed through their veins. It felt as if the weight they had carried for so long was shattered, replaced by the liberating essence of unity. As their empathic energy surged forth, there was an earthquake of brilliance that rippled outward, surging towards the cloaked figure, incinerating the chains that had fastened them for far too long. The figure shrieked, waves of fury crashing inside its dark form. But their truth was too potent. It cracked the air, slicing through the shadows like lightning, illuminating the space with a pure brightness that obliterated the darkness. They stepped forward together, hand in hand, ready to seize their destiny. The horizon shifted, and light spilled like liquid gold, warming the barren void into a lush expanse. The shadows were banished, dissolving into wisps of smoke, while the figure fell back, losing shape, its power diminished. As the dust settled, Relief washed over everyone. Faces reflected a newfound clarity, fragile yet unbreakable. The woman standing tall closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of life return, interconnected and vibrant. Is it over? A voice murmured from the crowd, unsure yet hopeful. Yes, she whispered, wiping tears of joy from her cheeks. This is a new dawn. And as the sun began to rise, casting hues of orange and pink across the sky, the villagers felt lighter. Each confession had forged them anew, and they gathered, ready to embrace the light. And that moment, as they looked into one another's eyes, they knew something sacred had been birthed. They would no longer hide from their past, nor allow it to define them. They were ready to reclaim their stories, step forward into the world, and weave together a future woven from honesty and healing, forgiveness and love. This was the moment they fought for, and they stood united, ready to face whatever came next together. The end, but not the last chapter. Now, about that journey together. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about how this story concluded. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Their support means everything.